This is upper body pulling strength gold, and there's no kipping gimmicks. Farmers care.
The kipping gimmicks, you douche. All right, back with another Marcus Filly video, having to unpack a very short video because there's no context for anything he talks about here. Now, he's talking about a CrossFit moves tier list. The hard part about this is he's talking about a CrossFit moves tier list within the context of bodybuilding. So bodybuilding's goal is different than CrossFit's goal. CrossFit's goal is centered around function. What are you able to do? What are you capable of? In addition to that, part of the methodology of CrossFit is talking about variance. So you expose yourself to a bunch of different things so that you have capability in those bunch of different things. So he's doing a tier list, and he calls it a CrossFit moves tier list because these are moves you do find in CrossFit, but then he talks about them in the context of their effectiveness on bodybuilding. I don't think that's specified in the video, but that just is the reality for who Marcus Filly is these days.
CrossFit moves from most effective to most overhyped. Starting at CT.
Overhyped. Now here's the weird part. You can't call something more effective or overhyped when it's a CrossFit move if you're talking about it for bodybuilding. Unless you say for bodybuilding, because if you said for CrossFit, then this list would be completely wrong because they're all useful in CrossFit. It's just another piece or another tool for the toolbox. But in the case of bodybuilding, he does have some points when it comes to, just raw muscle growth or safety maybe. I'm not really sure. So let's go through.
Strict toes to bar, core level 10, but some better options exist for all levels of athletes. Dropping down to F tier, the American kettlebell swing.
Okay, so he had a C for a strict toes to bar. The strict toes to bar is a fine movement for hip flexor strength. It's very specific to control over the midline. I don't know what he means by it being there's better options for the core. It's helps you get better kipping toes to bar, which we use in competition and metabolic conditioning workouts to achieve higher levels of anaerobic conditioning and aerobic conditioning as well. Weird that it falls into C. No real reason why. Goes into kettlebell swing.
For hip hinging, there are much better options that won't make your low back and your shoulders potentially at risk.
Okay, so he talks about the kettlebell swing. We've already gone over this one in another video that he went specific on. He says there's better options. There's better options. There are great options for hinging movements. And in terms of strength gains, he's right. The kettlebell swing is not huge for massive strength gains in hip hinging movements for the posterior or even the hips and back and core. It is a useful tool for conditioning and using it in metabolic conditioning workouts, but it's not a useful tool for just raw strength gains. But it's just one, again, of many other tools. So to throw it as an F tier is silly in the context of CrossFit. It makes sense if your only goal is to grow your glutes. But that's not our only goal in CrossFit. So in terms of a CrossFit tier movement, it's like it sits up there with everything else. It's all relatively the same.
Moving up to D tier, the overhead squat and snatch. Outstanding, beautiful movements, but
and snatch. Again, he's talking about these in the context of bodybuilding, but he doesn't specify that. Maybe he does in a longer video somewhere. I think he throws us in a D tier, which is the second lowest tier. In terms of coordination, accuracy, agility, balance, these intangibles when it comes to moving the human body through space. I guess they're tangible, but these are fantastic movements. They're super beneficial, and there's no reason that you would not do them other than the complexity of them. But the complexity of them makes them valuable because it requires you to work psychologically and cognitively to put your body together in a fluid motion. So they're awesome, done at loads that are appropriate for the individual and under a coach's eye, and even not done under a coach's eye and learning at very submax loads, they're wonderful. In terms of just raw strength gain, though, he's right. There's better movements like squat, dead, press. There's things that are going to do magical stuff for the shoulders and back and stuff if we're just talking about just raw strength gains.
Very low return on your investment. And while we're here in D,
when it comes to just bodybuilding, but a massive return on your investment when it comes to proprioception and coordination and body through space. it's just, there's no context for what he's talking about here. And I guarantee you people who are sharing this don't know the context. So they're like, yeah, it's just a bad movement. And they go out there and do dumb stuff.
Kipping pull-ups. They're great for the scoreboard, but not really your back strength.
Great
now we're moving up into...
but not for the back strength. So another D movement is kipping pull-ups. So again, we don't just do kipping pull-ups for strength. Now, they are useful for strength because, it's not the raw strength that you get from a strict pull-up, but it is a strength of your shoulder under a dynamic load, which is a different kind of strength. Now, is there a possibility of overdoing it? Sure. But in the context of CrossFit, you should have built up with stricter movements. Then you go into these kipping movements, and the kipping movements allow you to do more of them in less time, which increases intensity levels and gives you a return on the effort you're putting in a more than one-dimensional way. So when you think about just a strict pull-up, it's mostly working the upper back and the lats and the chest a little bit, but it's not just... It is just kind of like a upper body strengthening exercise. Whereas when you use a kipping pull-up and you throw it in the middle of a metabolic conditioning workout, you get much more from it than just the upper back exercise. You get, there's core involved in the sense that you're having to brace as you go through the kip. There's a dynamic load on the shoulder, and there's a cardiorespiratory component that you get from doing this fast and faster.
B tier. And we're starting with the strict ring muscle up. This one is impressive. And if you've got the strength to do it, it's an awesome exercise. But it can't go higher than B tier because it's not really scalable to most people.
So he puts the strict ring muscle up as a B tier movement. He says it's awesome. It's not really that great for anything. I mean, it does have a pretty long range of motion for the upper body because you're going from a fully extended position, transferring through the middle. So you've got to pull into a press. It's all upper body, but there's core involved, and it's a cool movement. Again, he's talking about it in the context of muscle gains for the shoulder. And I guess bodybuilding gains, but not so much in the context of a well-rounded athlete or somebody who is looking to apply their physicality to stuff. So it's a weird one that he even throws out there. And his reasoning is you can't scale it. And it's like, there's a million ways to scale this. It's super scalable. Feet on box, you can do banded versions, you can do negatives, you can do the components of it, the pull and the press in different ways. You can do stuff in a more friction... this is like the muscle-ups in a relatively frictionless plane. If you can move it to more of a bar, so there's something to pull and push against. Like, there's so many ways to scale this. To throw it out there, it's hilarious.
Moving up to A tier. For explosive strength, the power clean. It's highly athletic, builds strength,
the power clean. So I guess his argument for the snatch is that, this is weird because now he's taking it out of the realm of bodybuilding and he brings it into the realm of strength, and he's saying that the snatch wasn't valuable, maybe because there's a complexity to it, but the snatch isn't valuable maybe because there's a complexity to it, but now all of a sudden the power clean is an important one. Like, the idea and the difference between a power clean and a snatch is because you're only receiving it on the shoulder, you can usually do a much heavier load. There's not the same level of coordination involved, which actually makes it a less beneficial psychologically coordinating movement, and you can say more beneficial physiologically because there's less technique required. There's a give and take with that. If you're just talking about raw physical power, then yeah, the power clean's awesome. And there's less risk involved because you don't have the shoulder joint going to this full range. But if you're talking about human capability and you want this full range and you want to have a body that can go and do anything, the snatch actually carries more value to me because you're using more of the body. You've got a longer range of motion. There's more psychology required to it to receive it in that position, to pull under load. And while there is a little bit more risk, if you take it at lower loads, you're fine.
Power, and is the most accessible of all the Olympic lifts to actually master.
So most accessible, so that is a valid point. It is the most accessible for most people to master. And I wouldn't say master, it would be to do at a competent level. Because once you master a power clean, you're a squat away from a squat clean, which then has more overall value to your system, because there's power production as well as a full range of motion of the physiology and anatomy of the hips, knees, and ankles. So it's like, all of a sudden there, if you're mastering a power clean, you could easily do squat cleans, which is an awesome movement as well. So the accessibility one then goes out the window because you've mastered it. It's a weird one. Yeah, but there is value in the sense that it is the easiest.
Does need to be coached right. And now for my
for people.
4 S-tier movements. The front squat. This is bulletproof for your legs and
yeah, the front squat's awesome.
Easy enough to scale. The strict pull-up. This is upper body pulling strength gold. And there's no kipping gimmicks. Farmers care.
The kipping gimmicks, you douche. Like, it's not a kipping gimmick. It's used for a different function. So yes, the front squat's awesome. It builds amazing stuff, midline stability. There's a positioning requirement. There's leg strength requirement. Now, it's weird that he wouldn't throw back squat in there because when you're talking about accessibility, the front squat's actually pretty low relative to people who can access the back squat. So I don't really understand why he would make that differentiation and not do back squat instead of front squat, especially the way he's talking about the rest
core, grip, and posture, even my mom and dad can do. And last but not
farmer's walk is not great. It doesn't do much for most things. Like, yes, it's fine, but S tier is crazy, especially if he's talking about, like, what is he talking about here? This is crazy. The only way that ranks S tier is that it's easy to do for anyone. And so it makes it accessible, just like he said, for anyone who walks through the doors. But in terms of actual adaptation and what you're getting from it, it's almost nothing. That's wild that he would throw that in there. I'm so confused.
At least a controlled deadlift. This one can build more than just your ego. Let me know what I missed.
Yeah, so again, these are 1 and 30-second videos. It's hard to really criticize this too much because he's just packing it in so close. But, with 1 million followers and everything shirtless and, you've got so many people paying attention to you, it's so dumb to badmouth things that actually carry a lot of value and not provide any context for people who have no education in this stuff. So I don't know. Again, I like Marcus. I always like Marcus, but this kind of stuff is detrimental to the overall fitness space because it forces you to play sides with stuff. All of these things are great in the right context, and in fact, a lot of them would be really good for 99% of the people who would ever approach or do them. I don't know. All right. I'm done. Peace out, people.